I'd like to take this time to talk about rejection. Not in the personal sense or the social sense. I'm going to talk about professional rejection. There's too much that can be covered on all sorts of rejection, but I'll focus on, in the professional context. People get rejected from jobs. People get rejected from, promotions or transfers. I mean, there are times where you will get excited about something and you will be disappointed, or you will be deprived of something or denied something, and it can be difficult. And I wish I had some good news, but you will develop coping mechanisms, you will develop thicker skin, you will develop, better expectations, so that you are less disappointed, or when you deal with disappointment, you handle it better. So, over the years, as you progress, you'll have more realistic expectations, so you will be less disappointed when you don't get a promotion, or you won't get your hopes up if you're applying for a job. You'll get kind of used to rejections because you understand more about companies and their hiring practices or their priorities. So as you get older, rejection kind of becomes a little bit easier to deal with, but that's not to say that it ever becomes easy or something that rolls off your back. And it's very normal. It's normal. It's just a part of life. It's just a part of working. Sadly, there's rejection left and right. And it's just important to really build yourself up. It's important to prioritize your physical health. It's important to prioritize your relationships with your friends, your family, your support network. Take care of your mental health. Take care of breaks, right? Ensure you're taking vacations and time alone, as well as time with others. All of these things outside of work really help prepare you for disappointments and stressful situations, at work, or, with professional endeavors and projects and what have you. So just to give an example, and this isn't like a rant necessarily, I'll just share a few disappointments I've had recently. I was considered for CIO of a state university in the U.S., and I've actually interviewed at about a handful this year. So I actually interviewed, I don't know if it was this year or last year, I actually interviewed at an Ivy League for a very high up IT position. Essentially, I would actually be owning an IT portfolio for an Ivy League in the tri-state, although I don't know if that's even... That's actually pretty funny to say, because I think like half of them alone are in the tri-state. But yeah, I interviewed at this Ivy League, and then this year I've had interviews at state universities in New Jersey, state universities in Illinois, state universities in Florida, Puerto Rico, California. So I've interviewed in a couple of states, actually, more than I even remembered. I'd actually forgotten about Florida and Miami. But anyway, I was recently disappointed because I interviewed at a state university that I was a little excited about. I was excited about it because just the nature of the student population. I would be supporting a student population that was very diverse, a little bit underserved, and the university had a mission that I really, resonated with. We had a few rounds of interviews, and I made it almost to the end. I was supposed to get some news about coming on site to Chicago, where the university is located, and I was told by the hiring partners that after I don't know if it was the fourth or fifth call regarding this role, that they would tell me by a certain date whether or not I got the role. And that date has actually has been more than a week, and they did touch base with me sometime before the deadline. They gave me they asked me a single question. I answered it. I don't know if I gave some response that maybe they didn't like, but it was disappointing to when the date went by, and then I tried to get some updates, but the impression I got when I engaged with them or communicated with them was that I was no longer under consideration. So, that's one disappointment. There's another disappointment where I was considered for a a pretty high up role in a pharma company in New Jersey, and thankfully, I mean, a lot more. I have a lot more success stories than failures at this level. But when the disappointments happen, they happen far and few in between. But when they happen, it usually doesn't affect me unless it was a role that I know I could execute to perfection. Some people like a role because it's with like a dream company. For me, I don't think I have dream company. I have industries I like. There are industries I like, such as healthcare, government, higher education, just because um, there's no single school, hospital, or agency I'm interested in. It's more just I love working with underserved populations. So when I find a role at a nonprofit or in government or in university or hospitals, especially public hospitals, and I don't get those roles, it is a disappointment. And you would think that, okay, CIO, like, you should be some adult. But you do get a disappointment. But with that said, the way the disappointment happens or the way I approach it or process it is probably a lot different than I did, 10 years ago. So for me, a disappointment is I get the news and I say, well, that is unfortunate. I could have done some good in this role and I could have executed well, but it is what it is. And it's weird because it's not that I pull out my hair or I get sad. I just tell my friends this update and tell them, it is unfortunate. I had some good conversations, but if it wasn't for me, it wasn't for me. And to me, that is disappointment. And then I have some good chai, I have some good food, I spend time with my friends, and then that's it. None of these disappointments follow me into the next day or into the next week. And I think that's something that's interesting because when people get bad news, they process it differently. And I'll go back to 10 years ago when I would get rejection. It's a lot worse than than it is for me today, right? So the way I handle it today is just I socialize and then I get over it. I just have a good time and I get over it. I don't try to romanticize the people I'm interviewing with or the role. I try not to visualize myself in that role just because I don't like to have the fantasies. I don't like to do too much research into the area or the where I'll be working, where I should be living. I don't like to do that. But go back 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it's a lot different. If I interviewed for a company, I was looking up where the company is located. I was looking up how to use the train system or buses to get there. I was looking up nearby apartments. I was looking at weather patterns. I was looking at public infrastructure, like how good are the sidewalks, how good are the road. I was doing all the research. I was looking on Google News. If a company wanted to interview me, I would set up a Google News, I forget what it's called, not reminder, but like anytime that company was mentioned in the news, I would get like an update, right? Like a keyword automatic notification. I would go all in. It is weird. It is weird. I'm criticizing myself, so it's okay. It is bizarre. Who does that? Who goes that far? Right? Like if there was a news article, video, like I'm watching videos. I don't want to say stalking, but like I'm like researching the people who are interviewing me. I am oh God, I get so invested in an interview. This is before the interview is taking place, by the way. I'm already like, what will my daily commute be like? What places will I be eating at or grabbing my coffee from? It is ridiculous. And that's how I used to be, okay? And it's like a little embarrassing to talk now because I know some people actually do that now, especially like early on they got like really, really into it. And that's unfortunate, right? That's unfortunate because guess what happens, right? You don't get the job. I would take it personally because I invested so much time. Like, I would get sad. I would get sad. I would try to, like, keep in touch with the hiring managers if they rejected me. I would try to, like, I don't know, like, it was lame. Sometimes if their company did something and it was, like, in the news, I would, like, copy the link and send it to the manager and be like, hey, saw that your company's doing this. Like, that's really cool. You made this acquisition. You came up with this new service. And, like, they would never respond. Or if they responded, they'd be like, okay, question mark, ... No one ever thought it was, like, cool. Like, they never thought it was interesting. And, yeah, sometimes I would, like, talk to them and just try to, after an interview, if it went poorly, like, I would follow with the managers for, like, weeks. And I had a few times where, like, I really went too far, and it didn't work out well for me. Like, some of them would... I remember one time I actually, like, I had a manager say, like, you need to leave me alone. This is just super annoying. And I was like, oh, sorry. Because, like, I didn't know much about boundaries back then, professionalism, and I thought, like, oh, if I keep emailing every week, like, I don't know, we have this friendly correspondence, they'll keep me in mind. No, they're not going to keep you in mind. They're going to find you annoying, right? So back then, when it came to managing expectations, I was pretty bad. Like, I would get really passionate about roles and companies, and I would legit, like, if I got interview requests, forget about it. Like, fantasies, storylines, like, they're being written, man. And now, I apply to roles where I feel like I can add value. And I try to be agnostic. Like, friends... If I mention to friends, right, not that I try to announce every single move I make, but sometimes I'll mention it to people if, like, it's relevant or we're that close that, like, I trust them. I don't worry about their envy or anything like that. And then they'll start, like, Googling the company, the area, stuff like that. And I'm just, they'll try to get me involved. I'm like, no, I don't do the Google searches. Like, I have had interviews where they ask me, what do you know about the company, right? You want to be, like, VP of IT. You want to be VP of operations. You want to be COO. Like, what do you know about the company? I'll tell them quite frankly, look, I applied to the role because it was interesting on paper, and I felt like I could add value. I know some topical information about the company or, the company, the agency, the hospital, whatever. But I don't like to pretend that I've known it or researched it. And I can tell you, it's never been an issue. If a company wants you to, like, know them in depth or intimately, that's just weird, man. But, nowadays, I handle disappointment a lot better because I have good support network. I have just good coping mechanisms. And also, I've just learned to have this healthy distance where I don't throw myself into work. I don't throw myself into interviews and get so excited. Like, now I manage my expectations, right? Like, I tell people, you don't have a job until you have a job. Like, for me, with the interview process, I look at all these rounds as truthfully just a singular interview, right? Like, the interview phase, whether it's one interview or 5, it's all the same to me. I just consider it that we're talking. It's not really that serious until I'm brought on site, or, like, until someone has sent me, not even the tentative offer, like, someone sent me the I-9 forms to fill out, or even better, until they're showing me my office. I don't, in my head, I'm like, I'm not even thinking about this as a real opportunity. This is all hypothetical. I'm able to minimize any disappointments because I don't get overly invested. So when it comes to dealing with rejection, all I can say is that I am at one end of the spectrum, which is a little bit mature, but I have been on the other end of the spectrum where, like, in some cases, I would legit, like, this is so embarrassing to say, but, like, there were times I would start emailing places that were, like, close to this job if I'm being interviewed, like to lease a place or, like, to rent an apartment or something. It was just, God, I would get so passionate, so excited. And then likewise, just as I had this high, I would also get very disappointed, very sad. Sometimes I would, like, I would even like the company's Facebook page or MySpace, or, like, Twitter. That's how it got. And then, like, if they rejected me, guess what? I'm blocking their Twitter. I'm blocking their Facebook. It was just very immature. Now we're talking, like, high school or college era. Obviously not, like, my grown-up phase, but it's dealing with rejection. Looking, if you go back 10 plus years and you go back now, it's drastically different. For these entry level roles, I'm like looking for the nearest cliff for me to jump off of because I'm like so sad. And now, right, for jobs that didn't matter, right, entry level roles, nonsense roles, and now I apply for C-level roles, and if I don't get them, I just go like, oh well, I mean, I could have done some good, but okay, I'm gonna go, drink some tea, and then that's it, right? So I feel like there's no advice for me to give, because for me it was all about just maturing, right? Maturing, growing emotionally, taking care of my health. That's all it really took, right? It was about time. It's about me prioritizing myself, taking care of my mental health, making sure I have good support network, like maintaining those bonds that matter, not the superficial professional bonds, right? Like those I take care of if I can, right? Maintain those relationships, but really just maintaining my friendships, my familial relationships. That has made professional rejections, professional issues, it's made them extremely easy to manage. Because I think when it comes to rejection, it's always going to happen. I consider myself fairly competent. I consider myself fairly qualified, fairly credentialed, and I'm still going to face rejection time and again. With that said, I'm just happy that I'm in a space and in a good place where, these things just don't bother me. But if you're someone who's facing a lot of rejection right now, I hope you get through these tough times, and I can tell you that the rejections never really stop. You're never going to become some hot commodity where like everyone is trying to get you or chasing you, right? I thought I would reach that point. Never really did. Like I've been recruited, like when I went to federal government, I was recruited by a chief data officer for an agency that I won't name. But yeah, I thought I would reach a point where everyone would be chasing me, and that doesn't happen. I still have to apply to jobs like regular people. I still have to interview and go through all these rounds. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but hopefully for anyone listening to this, as you go through life, you will experience the same kind of growth and, thick skin and gain all the tools that you need in order to deal with rejection, because it becomes less often and hopefully less impactful to you.